In some stories, Moon Knight is presented as just a man with many abilities and skills who struggles to know who he truly is. But in other stories, he is raised to the status of a god. Welcome back, Nerd Squad, it's me, Amanda! Which Moon Knight story is your favorite, and why? Number 10. Jessica Spector. Admittedly, we don't really know what Jessica's power level is at. What we do know is that she hails from an alternate reality designated Earth 8753. In this reality, Mark is dying, and it is his daughter, Jessica, who is destined to take up his mantle after he passes. He has been training her for years, and Jessica has chosen to follow in different but similar footsteps to him. Being extremely studious, she has years of physical training, becoming a gifted martial artist and weapons expert, and is an accomplished student studying to become an archaeologist. One night when Mark is injured and lays dying, she learns of a secret identity as Moon Knight and agrees to take up the mantle as he passes on. Jessica is only briefly mentioned and shown in the collection known as Marvel Knights Millennial Visions from 2001. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that subscribe button. Number 9. Vampire Moon Knight. While not explicitly shown in action and more kinda like just mentioned, Moon Knight in the reality of Earth 9140 was a vampire. The reality is one we explore in the 1989 What If series in issue number 24. Here we answer the question, what if Wolverine was Lord of the Vampires? And I guess we kind of ignore the fact that usually Wolverine can't stay as a vampire because of his healing factor. But the answer in this case is many superheroes would end up as vampires at his side, Mark Spector's Moon Knight included. However, while I think a vampire version of Moon Knight is super fitting and super cool, having both the powers of Moon Knight as well as a vampire combined, which means he'd always be at peak power since he only ever came out in the nighttime, he was sadly very short-lived. In the end, the Montesi formula is still used to defeat the vampires and is actually read out by Wolverine himself this time around, who in the end regains enough of his humanity to fight back against his monstrous nature. What a twist. Number 8. Crescent Moon. Crescent Moon is an interesting female alternate version of the character. We don't know her true name, only her superhero name, but we do know who her enemy was. Grey Wing. She and her army of religious warriors fought against Grey Wing, as was glimpsed in the pages of the 90s comic Mark Spector Moon Knight issue number 42. Here, Crescent Moon is tragically defeated by the evil villainous doppelganger of Moon Knight known as Moonshade, who travels to alternate realities in the hopes of increasing his power by consuming the life force energy of other Moon Knight alternates in the multiverse. We don't know much about the world Crescent Moon hails from outside of what we know about her. However, it is believed to be designated Earth 920942. Unfortunately, the last and first appearance of this alternate happens in that issue number 42, so sad. Personally, I think Crescent Moon could have her own little spin-off. I'd like to learn more about her. Number 7. Spector. Spector is one of the alternate versions of Moon Knight that we see from the 2015 Secret Wars event. He appears first in Master of Kung Fu, which is a Secret Wars Battle World tie-in miniseries. Here, he is revealed to be a master martial artist known as the Master of the Faces of the Moon, a school of martial arts from Kunlun. Spector does not beat Shang-Chi in the Tournament of the 13 Chambers, but he does manage to hold his own considering. Number 6. Zombieverse Moon Knight. Although not initially a zombie version of Moon Knight himself, this version of Moon Knight hails from the reality of Earth 2149, also sometimes referred to as Earth Z, standing of course for zombie. Here, a rogue virus came to Earth and then turned everyone, heroes and villains and of course civilians included, into zombies. Moon Knight seems to get his powers from the moon here, but despite the fact that he is weaker during the day, he is powerful enough to seemingly survive quite late into the Marvel zombie story. Initially, it was actually believed that he was killed after the formation of the Power Cosmic Zombies team. However, he is later shown to be alive and well during a fight with Earth 616's Deadpool. Or well, I guess I should say he was alive and well. Sometime between the Power Cosmic Zombies coming into power and the series Deadpool Mark with a Mouth, Moon Knight becomes zombified and ends up being killed by Deadpool of Earth 616 in issue number 8 of Deadpool Mark with a Mouth after Deadpool decapitates him. Which, you know, is kind of what you do to zombies to get rid of them. Although, then there's Headpool, so I don't know if Moon Knight would really be dead. It could just be a talking head. Number 5. Earth X. This version of Moon Knight hails from the alternate reality of Earth 9996 7, also known as Earth X. Here, Moon Knight had similar powers to his Earth 616 counterpart, but was also, for a time, considered immortal and unable to die. This was as a result of the Reanimator Stone. Moon Knight became fixated on protecting the stone against those who would use it for more insidious purposes, but eventually it was retrieved by the hero Mar-Vell, with Moon Knight's permission, and taken to the realm of the dead. This version of Moon Knight was also a bit more scary in terms of his standard fights. Instead of using the preferred traditional weapons that we know Moon Knight for, which themselves in the hands of Mark Spector can be pretty frightening, he preferred to actually fight with guns. Personally, I think that is a preference that makes him even more frightening. I wouldn't want to fight Moon Knight with guns. And I know what you're all thinking, sometimes he fights with guns, Amanda, and yes, but that's not usually what we know him for, unless we're talking about Earth X, and then that is what we know him for there. Number 4. Earth Legacy. On Earth Legacy, designated as Earth 8545, Moon Knight falls to the same fate as the rest of humanity. Here, the Legacy virus kills many, before Warlock, in an effort to save his soul self-friend, Cypher, merges with his pal. As a result, the Legacy virus actually mutates instead, becoming part Technarch. This doesn't have the desired effect that Warlock had hoped, and instead only makes the virus more infectious and deadly. It spreads to the rest of the population, consuming pretty much all organic life. Moon Knight himself is also infected by this new version of the Legacy virus, but on the sort of positive side, as a result, does get a sort of combination when it comes to his power set of both his own and Warlock's abilities and powers. Kind of a silver lining. I mean, everyone's kinda, I think, evil, but you know. Number 3. Moonwing. Despite being an amalgam character, there is a lot that Moonwing has in common with the Moon Knight of Earth 616, mainly that his powers fluctuate based on the phase of the moon. During a full moon, Moonwing is considered to be at his most powerful. This is similar to the suggested power of Moon Knight from Marvel's Earth 616, who is often implied to be stronger at night and more so during a full moon. Moonwing, also known as Richard Grayson, is actually a combination of both Moon Knight from Marvel and Nightwing from DC, as an amalgam character. The Amalgam Universe was known as a crossover world which saw DC and Marvel characters and teams blended together into single entities. As such, Moonwing has the powers and abilities of both characters and also uses both of their signature weapons in combat, both fighting with Moon Knight's truncheon as well as Nightwing's Eskrima sticks. Number 2. Ultimate Moon Knight. Ultimate Moon Knight is known by the name of Stephen Grant instead of the more common Mark Spector, although it is possible that Mark is his true main identity, or perhaps in the Ultimate Universe, Stephen is the main identity, who knows. Because even in this alternate reality, he also has dissociative identity disorder. Grant hails from the universe of Earth 1610, also known as the Ultimate Universe, a comic book world and line made to offer a sort of a bit of a gritty twist on the main continuity of Earth 616, and which aimed at making it easier for new fans to jump into a narrative without having to worry about being bogged down by years of comic book history and continuity. This version of Moon Knight appeared to straight up just have superpowers, although it's not explicitly confirmed, and it's not known if they come from Khonshu or perhaps the moon, as suggested in the main continuity, or perhaps both of those things, because you know, Khonshu is the god of the moon. Among his feats, he appears to be super strong, durable, fast, and also have perhaps some kind of healing factor. In issue number 110 of Ultimate Spider-Man, while under the guise of Ronin, we witness him take a shot to the head point blank and seemingly heal from it enough to stand back up and wander around. I mean, he's holding his head, so obviously he's in some pain, but still, that's healing, I think. This is also after he was laying face down in a river for who knows how long, either like a few minutes or could have been even like a few hours. I don't think there's a time that's mentioned in the panels, so that seems to be doubly dead to me. Get shot in the head and then you're laying down. I don't know about that. Number 1. Age of Khonshu Moon Knight. Technically, this Moon Knight is not an alternate, as he hails from Earth 616, but he's honestly too cool for me to not mention, so I kinda gotta talk about him. Although this was a very specific time in Moon Knight's life where he was extremely boosted in terms of his power set, so it's like still main continuity, but we can like call it a niche time. It's not really an alternate though, to be clear, or a variant. This period of Moon Knight's career as a vigilante saw him team up with Khonshu, who is in fact real in this story, to help him defeat Mephisto. In order to do so, Khonshu pits Moon Knight against the Avengers so that he can get enough power for Khonshu to take on Mephisto with. Moon Knight, during Age of Khonshu as such, took all the main powers and artifacts of the Avengers, stealing Thor's hammer, Ghost Rider's car, and even taking the Phoenix Force for himself temporarily. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube. Bye.